pattern recognition is the move. This is how we are going to come to understand things in this most confusing time that we have here in front of us. We are living through Mercury in Pisces right now. Mercury has been in Pisces for far too long, in my opinion. Mercury is the planet of communication and is deeply confused in the deep waters of Pisces. We've seen a retrograde through that space. Mars has been here for most of this time. Mercury is now moving forward, so at least Mercury is direct, but still deeply in the shadow, still deep underwater, still very confused about everything. This week we see a trine to the ruler of Pisces, who is Jupiter in Cancer, looking very comfortable there in Cancer. Jupiter is great at doing the Jupiter things, the seeing the big picture and being wise about it and growing things and nourishing stuff. Jupiter is great in Cancer doing that sort of stuff, right? And so to see a trine, which is a supportive aspect between Mercury in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer, suggests that there is something here about communicating in this watery way, understanding things in a way that is full of emotions and vibes, that is very important, not only this week, but this week is sort of showing us how to understand the world at large in this new moment that we're moving into. What's up, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am so grateful to all of you for being here at a time like this. Thanks for being here. If you want to go to zambonifunk.com, you can get a reading where I will do this kind of thing, but specifically for you, I'll look at Mercury in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer and be like, this is in such and such an area of your chart, and so this will have this kind of effect in your life. If you don't want to outsource that to me, but rather you want to learn how to do that yourself, again, I mentioned that pattern recognition is an extremely important thing to be able to do in this new future. You can get good at that by taking my astrology course, Astrology from the Ground Up. It is real dope. It is, I'm very proud of it, and everyone says that it is the most relatable and understandable astrology course that they've ever taken. So if you want to go to zambonifunk.com, you can find all that stuff. You can find a hip hop album I made, etc., etc. Go check that shit out. So I think about pattern recognition a lot because, like, so for one thing, patterns are beautiful, right? There's something about, even when it's kind of like a terrible situation, you recognize the pattern and you go, that is strangely beautiful. We call that in the astrology community, we call that astrologer good. When something terrible happens, but it's perfectly on point for the astrology, then like you have to respect the hustle, even if you don't like what happened. You know what I mean? When wars start and you're like, there sure is a war signature in the sky, that you have to like respect it, even if you don't like what's going on, right? So there's something beautiful about patterns. And in fact, we have a lot of capacity to appreciate beauty this week and in the coming weeks, because Venus is moving out of Aries and into Taurus. Venus is not very comfortable in Aries. Venus is the planet of beauty and harmony and cooperation and putting things together, cohesion, generally stuff that you like and that feels good in some kind of way, soft things and sort of that sort of stuff, right? Venus does a great job in Taurus. Venus is at home and comfortable in Taurus. And so this is a good time for getting into the finer things in life, eating delicious food and listening to excellent music, or maybe making good music. I always suggest making good art, right? Kind of at all times. Maybe that's just because I do art, but like making good art, especially when Venus is in dignity in this kind of situation, then there's wind in the sails. You can make really cool stuff, right? And you can notice, you can appreciate patterns that arise, and you can sort of start to see how it all works together and appreciate the beauty of that situation. And something about the way of appreciating patterns, like the way that humans have come to learn and remember information before for the longest time, nobody could read. There was no reading and writing. That just simply was not a thing, right? And the way that people understood and remembered information during that time was they wrote a song about it, or they told a story about it. And something about that is just like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about what's next, right? Like you're sitting around the campfire and somebody's telling a story, and even if you have heard the story before, something about it is captivating. It's like, oh my God, I gotta hear the rest of this story, right? That kind of situation. So something that tells us that there is something about the rhyme of a song, or the way of making something beautiful, turning information into something that is beautiful and intuitive on the body level. You know what I mean? Venus in Taurus is very somatic. It's very strongly embodied in an important way. Taurus is that kind of way, right? And as we see Venus moving into Taurus, then we've got a strong impetus to sort of like figure out what really matters to us, what actually is valuable, what constitutes value because it is good for my body, or because my body likes it in whatever way. Sometimes you like things that are not necessarily good for you, and Venus in Taurus is going to be really indulgent with the sweet things and stuff like that. But there's something about that, the deeply embodied nature of that kind of understanding, that's a really big deal here, right? So that at the same time, so this is both the benefics. The benefics are Jupiter and Venus. Those are the ones that bring you things that you typically like, that feel comfortable and joyous and stuff like that. Both of the benefics are going to be in good position for a couple of weeks here. That looks great. We love to see benefics doing beautiful, good things, making life more comfortable or beautiful in some kind of way. We love to see this sort of stuff. Now, that is always in these times, that always comes with some kind of caveat or something like that. There's always some bullshit going on, but there is access to that, right? And so while we are in this historical moment, while everything is so deeply confusing, you can't even tell we aren't getting any of the same information because your algorithm is so tuned to you specifically. You can't know what other people are hearing. And then there's no way to know if the thing that you are hearing is real or is deep fake or is anything else. Like there's too many wide open possibilities. And so that is why it's so important to lean into maxims that show you patterns, you know? So there's something about like two birds with one stone is a great example here. That's a maxim or an aphorism, right? It's a saying that, or like one of my favorite sayings, I was mentioning rhyme before, it ain't none to it but to do it, right? So that is a way of understanding how to be in the world that has this sense of, it's a truism, it's something that is real across time. And so even though, like, so I like the birds and the stone analogy here because you don't have to actually hunt birds by throwing stones at them. Probably no one on this channel watching this video has ever done that before. Why? Because that's a terrible idea at this point in the game, right? But having never done that, you still understand the concept. And so you don't have to apply that simply to birds and stones in order to get some real understanding of how to be in the world with that phrase. And so this week, as Mercury in Pisces is making this trine, this supportive aspect to Jupiter in Cancer, who rules Pisces, this looks like a really good time to come to understand things in that sing-songy, poetic, metaphorical kind of way that goes beyond this specific moment in time. In this specific moment in time, facts are like a dime a dozen and not particularly useful all the time because you don't even know what a fact is at this point. So we need some kind of understanding that goes beyond that. And there is something about art, there is something about song, poetry, metaphor, pattern that is not only beautiful and delightful to behold, even when it's terrible, but also it's not terrible all the time. Many times you look at the pattern and you go, oh, this is delightful. What a joy it is to be able to behold, right? To take that kind of beauty and make real embodied understanding in the actual world that we really live in, that is the thing that we have access to this week that we can practice in such a way as to cultivate that ability for the long term, because we are stuck in this information environment. What are we going to do about that?